felt you've represented women and your country well tonight?
As I said from the beginning, I was trying to be here for myself. Winning or lose, I don't want people saying, oh, you know, she's representing ladies and losing, so ladies not good enough. So I was hoping for a win.
She didn't just win titles. She shook the entire foundation of the sport. A Russian unknown who came out of nowhere, crushed legends, and forced her way into the spotlight. Whether the darts world liked it or not, she ended a dynasty, triggered one of the most controversial decisions in darts history, and became the face of a revolution the sport wasn't ready for. But now, she's barely mentioned. Her name, once feared and debated, now lives mostly in whispers. What happened to darts' biggest female superstar? In 2007, almost no one in the UK darts scene had heard the name Anastasia Dobromyslova. She was young, Russian, and totally unproven on the sport's biggest stage. When she made her Lakeside debut that year, most expected her to bow out early, just another promising player overwhelmed by the pressure. Instead, she made a statement. She beat Sweden's Carina Ekberg, then lost to the eventual champion Trina Gulliver, who at that point was practically untouchable. Gulliver was in the middle of a historic run, having already claimed 7 consecutive world titles. For any newcomer, just taking a leg off her was a victory. But Anastasia wasn't just any newcomer. The very next year, she came back stronger, much stronger. She sliced through her opponents, beating Dee Bateman and Stephanie Smee to reach the final where she faced Gulliver again. And this time, the results stunned everyone. Anastasia took her down in straight sets, 2-0, ending Trina's nearly decade-long domination and crowning herself world champion on just her second attempt. A new queen had arrived, but not everyone celebrated her victory. Some whispered that she was arrogant. Others claimed she hadn't earned her place in the elite ranks. In a sport steeped in tradition and slow change, Anastasia didn't just win, she disrupted. But her boldest move was still to come, and it would spark one of the biggest controversies darts had ever seen. Just months after dethroning the most dominant woman in darts history, Anastasia made a move that shocked everyone. She walked away from Lakeside. In late 2008, the PDC announced that Anastasia Dobromyslova would be competing in their 2009 World Championship at the iconic Alexandra Palace. This wasn't a typical qualification. She was handed a spot after the sudden withdrawal of an Indian qualifier. According to the PDC, her inclusion was based on her being a top-ranked representative from Russia. But that explanation didn't sit well with a lot of people. Behind the scenes, it felt orchestrated, and in public, the backlash exploded. Darts legend Eric Bristow didn't hold back. He accused the PDC of favoritism, insisting that other players had spent thousands traveling the world to qualify, only to be pushed aside. There are a lot of top players who are not very happy about it, he said. They are paying a lot of money to travel around the world, and she's just been invited. Then came the deeper cut. He claimed Anastasia simply wasn't good enough, adding that players like Maureen Flowers would have wiped the floor with her. It wasn't just criticism, it was dismissive. Even Trina Gulliver weighed in, calling the timing of Anastasia's departure a massive blow to women's darts, especially after just losing her title to her. The whispers from the year before had become shouts. In just one decision, Anastasia had gone from world champion to controversy magnet. But she didn't back down. Instead, she stepped onto the PDC stage, ready to prove she belonged. What followed, though, was far from a fairy tale. Her debut at the 2009 PDC World Championship was supposed to be the moment she silenced the critics. Instead, it exposed how brutal the top tier of darts really was. She faced Remco van Eegeden in the preliminary round. The pressure was immense, the crowd electric, but the performance uneven. Both players averaged in the low 80s, and Anastasia fell 5-3 in her first match. Just like that, her PDC debut ended in disappointment. Still, she stayed committed. She spent the rest of 2009 grinding on the PDC Pro Tour, but couldn't break through. Tournament after tournament, she failed to get past the last 64. The woman who'd shocked the BDO world couldn't seem to find her rhythm in this new league, and yet she kept making headlines. She was invited back to the Grand Slam of Darts because of her world title. There she made history, becoming only the second woman ever to beat a man in a major televised event, taking down Vincent van der Voort in a sudden death leg. It should have been a triumphant moment. But that win was buried under what came next, brutal defeats to legends Phil Taylor and Mark Webster. She finished bottom of her group again. By the end of 2009, she failed to qualify for the next World Championship, losing in the Russian qualifier final. In 2010, her struggles continued, failing to reach televised stages and missing out on key events like the UK Open. Her averages dipped, her ranking fell. The spotlight that once lit her up now seemed to burn. And still, Anastasia pushed on. But the darts world wasn't finished with her. Not by a long shot. Her next battle wasn't about points or titles. It was personal. By 2011, Anastasia had seen enough of the PDC grind. The wins weren't coming. The spotlight had dimmed. And she'd become more of a headline than a competitor. So, she made another bold move. She returned to the BDO. In a public letter, she admitted she'd received bad advice in the past and was now committed to the BDO and WDF circuit. But any hope of a quiet return was shattered almost immediately. Her comeback began with a win over Julie Gore in the quarterfinals of the 2012 World Championship, a strong, confident performance. Then came the semi-finals, her first big rematch with Trina Gulliver since their infamous 2008 final. She won again, ending Gulliver's hopes of reclaiming her throne. But instead of celebration, controversy followed. The official BDO match report launched a stunning attack on her character. The write-up accused her of mind games, arrogance, and even slow play. It painted her not as a champion, but as a villain, describing her as a snarling, black-shirted Russian who exuded arrogance and self-confidence. Fans were furious. Many called the article a clear smear, especially given it was posted by the sport's own governing body. The BDO claimed the journalist was independent, but the damage was done. Even after defeating Data Hedman in the final to become a two-time world champion, the narrative wasn't about her skill, it was about the drama, and Anastasia knew it. She later said that the officials had clearly never forgiven her for leaving in 2009, and that she was seriously considering going back to the PDC. But instead of running, she stayed. And what came next was her most dominant season yet. If there was any doubt about her place in the sport, Anastasia erased it in 2013. With pressure mounting and whispers swirling, she went into the World Championship and delivered again. She defeated Lisa Ashton in the final, locking in her third world title and cementing her legacy as one of the greatest women to ever throw a dart. This time, there were no asterisks, no controversy, just a cold, clear message. She wasn't going anywhere. She remained a dominant presence over the next few years. But as the sport evolved, and as new stars like Ashton began to rise, the spotlight gradually shifted. In 2018, she fought her way back to the world final, proving she still had the game. But Ashton returned the favour from 5 years earlier, beating Anastasia 3-1. It was a passing of the torch moment, but it didn't tarnish her legacy. Then came the opportunity to return to Ally Pally for the 2019 PDC World Championship. Anastasia won the rest of the World Women's Qualifier, earning her place on one of darts' biggest stages. But again, it didn't go as planned. She was swept 3-0 by Ryan Joyce, averaging just 77. The result stung, not just for her, but for fans who'd hoped her return would be triumphant. Still, the fact that she'd made it back at all spoke volumes. In a career marked by peaks, valleys, and constant scrutiny, Anastasia was still willing to fight her way into history. But her greatest challenge wasn't on the dartboard, it was about to come from a world far beyond sport. After nearly 2 decades of battling critics, conquering both circuits, and cementing herself as a legend, Anastasia faced a challenge no training, ranking, or title could prepare her for. She was banned because of her passport. In 2022, political tensions boiled over worldwide. And as sanctions rippled across sports, Anastasia, one of the most accomplished female players in darts history, was suddenly barred from competing in WDF events, including that year's World Championship, which she had already qualified for, not because of anything she said, not because of anything she did, but because she held a Russian passport. For the first time, she was being punished not for her decisions, but for her identity. Still, she didn't quit. In 2023, Anastasia entered 20 of the 24 PDC Women's Series events, competing under a neutral flag. Her performance wasn't what it once was. Her average for the year was just 70.8, placing her 17th on tour. She did, however, reach back-to-back finals in September and finished 10th on the overall order of merit. The results might not have made headlines, but her resilience did. Even after the bans, the media bias, and the years of controversy, she was still standing at the Och, doing what she'd always done, competing, pushing, refusing to disappear. And while her stats may not shine like they used to, her legacy tells a different story. Anastasia Dobromyslova didn't just win titles, she forced a conservative sport to face progress head-on. She didn't ask permission to join the boys' club. She stormed in. She rattled legends, divided fans, and stood toe-to-toe with giants. And through it all, she refused to play the quiet, humble champion that some in the darts world seem to prefer. Her career wasn't clean. It wasn't smooth. It was messy, controversial, and full of setbacks. But that's exactly what makes it unforgettable. She's been called arrogant, disruptive, and even a threat to the women's game. But look beyond the headlines, and you'll see something else, a player who didn't just compete. She changed the rules. She opened doors, took heat no one else dared to take, and stood alone more times than most players could handle. In doing so, she helped shape the modern era of women's darts, whether the establishment wants to admit it or not. So, what happened to darts' biggest female superstar? She's still here, still throwing, still defying expectations. Not a fallen legend, but a living reminder that greatness often comes with a cost.